improvements. So maybe I can start as someone who's an insider outsider in the community. I can see Ametrine Witch's page, and I enjoy some of the original content that you have produced in terms of politics and how you've kind of incorporated tarot spirituality to talk about like current events, to talk about anxieties around the elections. And I think that is one way in which the community can be contributing very concretely in terms of like healing and also accountability in that. So I want to turn it over to you, Ametrine Witch, to talk about what other kinds of things have inspired you.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I'm taken off guard. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, John. That was so kind of you to say. I really appreciate that. Wow, where do I even start? Like, I was thinking before we came on about how short of a time has passed, but also how it seemed like such a long time in between the last time I've seen all of you and sort of like all of the different things that have happened in that chunk of time. I feel like I'm somewhat of a different person now than I was even just then, just from like all of the community building that we've already done so far. And I said after the last panel that after the last panel, I had never felt so included in something before. I just feel like this panel has done just an incredible job of like creating a space for people to come who have like that intersection of being interested in tarot and spirituality, but it's also like a group with a lot of eclectic interests. And I think that like so many other of you as well, like have such a diverse background of interests to bring to the table when talking about spirituality. And it's just, yeah, it's so important to incorporate all of these conversations in so many things that might not from the surface like seem like they're related to tarot and spirituality, but under the like they all are. It's all connected. So yes. What was the initial question, I guess, that we were gonna dive into?
Yeah. Is there something that you found inspiring and like a minor achievement or improvement that you see when it comes to like new decks that need to be celebrated or new ways of influencing as YouTubers or speaking to the current moment? What has inspired you?
Actually, I've been really inspired, and I don't see her here, but I've been so inspired by Shaniqua from what Shaniqua's into and watching her deck unfold. That's been like a really exciting thing that I've been focused on lately, and just seeing all of the support that she's gotten and the amount of interest that she's like cultivated for her deck. So I've really been enjoying seeing the community growth around that. And I've been talking to her a little bit about things just in general, like in general behind the scenes. Like we've just been talking to each other about mental health and certain things that we want to see more of going forward. So we both share that. So I definitely have been seeing a lot more conversation, I would say, about mental health in the tarot and spiritual communities, a little bit more, I would say, general openness about those topics, and feeling like that is sort of more at the forefront than I think it was maybe before the panel. Just I know in terms of the people who are here like as influencers, and then from the people who we are all influencing in our communities. So I've definitely seen that intersection grow in deck creators and people who are intaking decks. So that's been awesome. That's one of the things that I really want to see in tarot communities, is a more of a focus on mental health and like holistic health in general, and how we can use tarot and our spirituality to really like hone in on our health at like, I don't know, just a deeper sense of health and healing.
Yeah, so that kind of like spirituality, which is also embodied, right? Do you want to
Yes.
on to somebody?
Sorry, what was that, John?
Feel free to call on someone to go next.
Oh, okay. I would love to call on Kellyanne Maddox and just anything that she wants to talk about since the last time we've all met. And I know that she was also reading Hood Feminism, which was one of the books that Queen Osset mentioned last time. This book here, which just has like, I know personally it's just changed my life. So I just wanted to see Kellyanne's thoughts about any of that.
Yeah, sure. I must admit, I'm not gripped by the call upon someone thing. I was more a fan of the
I know, I was
hand up thing,
nervous
but
too.
that's just me. Um, but I'm fine to be called upon. I was just like, oh, we're doing things this way, are we? This is making me feel a bit hot.
Me
So
too.
I mean, to be completely honest with you, I'm not a big buyer of decks. I'm not actually a big peruser of decks. I know that sounds weird, but I add things to my collection very slowly, and I actually don't feel. I've never felt like I'm a pro card slinger, but I've never felt like I'm in the industry and I've got my fingers in all the community pies. So when people ask me, how do you think the industry is going and what's happening in the industry, I'm like, I have no, my finger is not remotely on that pulse. But what I will say is that I also am following the development of Shaniqua's deck, and it is very exciting. And it's made me kind of, to think a lot more about imagery. I've written a lot since last time we convened about various things using the questions that were given to us by Queen Aset, and also the questions from me and white supremacy, which I know a lot of people are using. The questions are incredible. Oh my God. And so going through and journaling with that as well. For me, I've had a personal dialogue with myself, and also had a dialogue with my assistant at a certain point too, about how long I've had as a part of my my personal business practice. Part of my sort of thing that I've done, I suppose, since I came up with the hashtag Tarot So White, was not to accept decks for review or unboxing that don't have any racial representation in them, that are all white bodies, basically. And I was saying to my assistant a few weeks ago, do you know, I've never actually said in an email why I've said no to any decks I've said no to. I've never written back and said, I can't use this, it's full of white bodies. There's nobody non-white in here. This is, it's a white supremacist fantasy, do better. I'm not sure if I'd say it quite that cattily, you understand, but maybe it depends on the day. All right, depends what time of the month it is. But I said to my assistant, do you think that's a bit, it's like overlooking something so key that you have as an influencer, which is the power to direct the market, and to say, I specifically won't take this deck because there's only white bodies in it. And my assistant said, yeah, I think you should. When you write back, tell them that is why you will not take it. And that if they want to consider you for decks to review or unbox in the future, they should only consider you for decks that are not all white. And I was like, that is such a good point. Why do I not do that? So I think for me, it's about, I've been cultivating more my own personal voice as an influencer, and thinking, hey, instead of having this, arguably very ethical, very useful standpoint of, I don't review things that look like a white supremacist fantasy to me, instead of just having that as your own personal hill to die on, why do you not let people know that, like, if you fund decks like this and you try to sell them to me and other influencers like me, we will no longer take them, because we are having this very public community dialogue, and this is the direction we're all going in as a collective. And so to me, I've had a big word with myself as well, not only about supporting decks that are coming out from Black and from non-white POC creators, and making sure that I'm interested in investing in them and I'm interested in reviewing them, but also when I'm not interested in something because it does not have any representation, I should say so.
Thanks so much, Kellyanne. It kind of like continues with the theme of Oscar So White, right? In which Tarot So White is inspired by where celebrities and in positions of power see themselves as gatekeepers, and therefore have to advocate for their cast and crew members to making sure it is also very diverse. Maybe we can call on Elrond to talk about what things that you have seen that have inspired you.
Hi, everybody. So I have a lot to say. I'm going to try and be succinct. But first of all, I just want to say that the first session was transformational. I was sitting glued to my screen, listening to all of you speak, and I was just blown away by the depth, by the positions, by the way you made me think. So I want to thank, obviously, Queen Aset and all of you for starting this discussion and educating me. I've done a lot of homework in a lot of different ways, so I'm just going to go through the list as quickly as I can. I took the challenge of purchasing 2 decks, the Dust to Onyx and the Hoodoo Tarot. And I've been working with both, and I've been loving both. I mean, they're deck reviews. I don't need to go too deeply, but I needed a challenge from Queen Osset to branch out of my comfort zone and to go into decks that I might not be comfortable with, and starting working with that imagery, and that was obviously amazing. Then I thought of my own, I used postcards to create my own guide deck, and I realized that that also had a majority of white male composers in it. So I added the following. Nelson Mandela showed up. Martin Luther King showed up. Muhammad Ali showed up. Yogananda, you're going to laugh, but Golda Meir showed up because there are not enough women here. This is the patron of my new house, Red Jacket, Native American. I got Ruth Bader Ginsburg to show up too. Gandhi, and my all-time favorite, Nina Simone. So my guide deck has become a lot more balanced because of all you guys. So thank you for that. Then I've been working on creating, I'm just going to say dad's deck. Right now, I've been working a lot with father energy, and in the stock images that I was looking for, I think this discussion has really influenced me to try and find representation of that relationship in different cultures. So this is what, I don't know if you guys can all see this, but. And the reason why I'm showing this is because this is one of my favorites. Look at this. It's because as I was looking through, I guess, hundreds and hundreds of images to find something that would speak to me as I work with this energy, I was really moved to find all of these images of other cultures, people who don't look like me, who really resonated with me. That's like, this is exactly the point, you know? I think I don't know if you can see, but this is a Down syndrome kid and his dad. And look at the love and look at the joy that they're showing. So, I mean, all of this is to say that the discussion really altered something in my psychic to think outside of my comfort zone. So yeah, so that's in this pile. Then in my other life as a musician, I started questioning what can I do as a classically trained pianist and as a teacher to introduce diversity to my students in the place that I work. And again, I can't tell you the whole story, but it was pretty traumatic to see what I'm facing, to see how regimented and how closed off the people around me are when it comes to changing the way that we program for concerts, the way we teach our kids which composers to go and play. So what I started with a friend of mine, we started a fund that people have been contributing money for, and we've raised $1,500 towards purchasing scores by minority composers. So that is African-American, minorities, LGBTQ. And what we're going to do is that the kids are going to choose pieces that we're going to now be able to purchase for them. They're going to learn them. We're going to present them in a concert next semester. So again, it completely altered the way that I thought about my job as an educator to make sure that this music is included. Now, I've been working for the last year on a project on a recording of women's music. So women's from all the way from the 19th century to contemporary. So it's not that I think that this discussion is not happening in that arena. Of course it's happening, but what became clear to me is that if we don't insist on, and the key word here is adding those voices, they're not going to be added. There is the implicit bias, there is habit, there is also, I don't want to go too deeply into it, but educational principles that when, you know, a student starts playing piano, if they don't know who Beethoven is, then we've failed. And I would say, I think that is true, but I think with Beethoven, we also need to educate them about other voices that are as good and as important. So for me, it's not either or, it's definitely the word and is pivotal in this discussion. Yeah, I think that's the first part of what I want to say, and I'm going to shut up and let somebody else talk. Tom? Yep.
I'm on mute again. I think, you know, it's a complicated question, sort of what little achievements have we found? I haven't seen a whole lot, to be honest with you. I think one thing I've noticed really is that people are more willing to call out spiritual bypassing in this community. which I think is a good thing, because I think there's a lot of sort of, I mean, everyone who knows me knows that I'm not very like love and light. That's just not my jam, but that's a lot of what we have here. And I'm seeing more and more people saying, hey, that, you know, that meme that you're meaning to make supportive is in fact really privileged. And here's why. So I've seen a bit of that. You know, in terms of sort of the decks and such that have come out, I mean, you know, those were already in the hopper when we met in October. But, you know, one thing that I've, you know, as when we were prepping yesterday with John and Queen Osset and Renee and Kasha, you know, I expressed my frustration with the publishing companies that we are giving our money to, and their lack of desire to engage in this conversation. And so, you know, that's a thing that I don't have an answer to. It's a thing I sort of hope we get to talk about today, because, you know, as you know, I don't think of myself as an influencer. I just sort of don't like that word, but I know that I do have an audience and I do unboxings. And so, you know, a question that I really want to wrestle with is sort of how we as consumers get the publishers to care about this. You know, Queen Osset uses the example of, you know, we got them to change the cardstock from glossy to matte, which is totally an unimportant thing. So then why can't we influence them to care about content creators who aren't either white or ripping off other cultures and, you know, white? So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like someone said it feels like it's been a long time, and not. And it does. So I'm a little more cynical, I guess. I don't have quite as optimistic a view at the moment of the last few months, but I see people wrestling with these questions, and I think that's key. I think people who maybe haven't or have been successful in avoiding it are sitting with them, and I think that's a good thing. But you know, in my way, I'm sort of like, how do we get further faster? So I don't know that that's the answer everyone was hoping for.
I think
But
that's such a great and powerful question, Tom, about, on one hand, like waiting for things to kind of like bubble up. So certainly mainstreaming critique of decks in terms of inclusion and diversity, as you do in your channel and many people do here. That's one way in which publishers might adjust. At the same time, you mentioned when we were preparing, like, how can we engage gatekeepers like Rachel Pollack, for example, to perhaps advocate for those other voices to be included by those large-scale publishers. And I'm sure many of us here will have good ideas when it comes to that. So maybe we can turn to Sparkle Divine Tarot.
Thank you. My sentiments kind of mirror Tom, because personally for me, I've always used my platform to bring light about inclusion and diversity. And I've kind of gotten to the point where I just don't care if the publishers include people at this point. Like, I care, but I feel like it's not worth, personally, the time and energy to fight for something if they don't want to include it. I just don't want to give them my money. And so I think I've been focusing more on highlighting and showing more indie decks, and exclusively indie decks that have diversity and representation, and not just racial representation. I'm really searching for decks that have representation across the board. And I'm taking that into account as my role as a reviewer at Indie Deck Review, challenging some of the status quo, challenging some of the decks that we receive or offered to do reviews on. Part of the reason I feel like that about the publishers is because I've had some insight into how these contracts work, and they're actually quite shit contracts. And I don't think it would be fair for a person of color, to be subjected to a shit contract that's going to be even less than what a person who's not a person of color would receive. So I don't know. I, I feel like that is a little bit hypocritical, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm really just trying to struggle and work through my personal feelings about advocating people be published by companies if they're not going to be represented fairly as far as pay goes. Recently, I saw that Crystal Banner was picked up by Hay House, which I thought was really, I'm happy for her. But then in the back of my head, I'm like, I hope she got a fair contract with that inclusion with Hay House. I'm sorry, I don't have a whole lot to contribute to that as far as achievements go. I mean, I've always been vocal about my feelings, calling people out where I feel like they deserve to be called out, and opening discussions on my channel and Instagram page about topics that are important to me. So
Absolutely. Yeah, very fair statement. When it comes to the independent decks, do you see any kind of new trends that are innovative, worthy of celebrating, perhaps? Or
as far as trends go, not necessarily. There's been an uptick in inclusion, but I don't feel like it's any more of an uptick than there was already before we had the summit back in September. And I haven't really supported a lot of decks recently just because of financial reasons, but the decks that I have coming in, I've been very pleased with. I recently did a review for the My Garden Tarot, which was refreshingly representative, and I was actually very surprised by the representation within that deck. So I'm hoping that decks like that continue to become successful in the future. I'm hoping that by doing unboxings and bringing light to decks like that, that more people are interested in purchasing them. It always comes down to purchase power, unfortunately. And I'm trying to use my platform to showcase people who deserve to be successful.
thank you so much for that. Can we turn it over to Jen's Balanced Tarot?
Hi. So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I had probably prior to our summit, I'd already been thinking about ways that I could be more organic about the discussions that we're having about inclusivity. I never did, say, a dedicated video, but what I did do is when I had opportunities to engage with my subscribers and community, I have a weekly live, what we call Tarot Playdate. I try to find ways to incorporate and highlight, for example, every week we study a different card, right? And so today we got strength, which I think is perfect for kind of what we've experienced today. But I always also bring out the melanated tarot and make sure that we always show both of these cards so that we see some representation. But that's just something so tiny. And I've been really afraid to kind of dive into some of the decks that I find so beautiful that I want to promote, but I want to make sure that my voice is respectful and I'm not trying to elevate my voice when talking about them. And a really good example of that is I recently brought the gorgeous, beautiful, Elron, you mentioned it earlier, the Dust to Onyx Tarot into my collection. It had been on my list forever. And I have to say, probably our last summit really prompted me to pull the trigger and get over myself and just get it. And I recently posted a video where I actually shared my experience in working with the deck and the expectations that I had on how it would go versus how it actually went. And one of the things that I really wanted to acknowledge about the deck is that it wasn't written for me as a white person. It was put into this community to give people who haven't been seen something to really help connect with their ancestry and their experiences. But what I found is that deck had a lot and still has plenty to teach me. The book, Courtney Alexander's writing is phenomenal and beautiful, and she brings forth all of these historical characters. And I really decided, okay, I'm a little bit scared because I'm afraid somebody's going to come to me and say, you know, Jen, you don't really know what you're talking about here with this deck. You don't really understand the experience. But I thought I'm going to start having the discussion anyway, because I think I need to get over my fear. I think people of color have been finding ways to connect with white decks since forever, really. And it was, you know, this was a table flip that I was ready to kind of accept and tackle and see how it went. And I had a few comments on those videos where people said to me, you know, this is a deck for everyone. This isn't just a deck for people of color. And I said, I absolutely agree. But where it came from in its origins, I want to be respectful of that and honor that still anyway. And so it's things like that where kind of pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zone, even though I'm not the expert, if I'm at least willing to acknowledge that I'm not, and then take in the feedback that I can, then that's going to be an opportunity for us to learn together. So I'm kind of trying to do that sort of thing, sort of share my journey so that people can understand where I'm coming from and maybe share their experiences and we can all move forward together.
Yeah, thank you so much for that honesty and sincerity. It connects to what Elron was saying earlier about sitting in discomfort, and how placing, of course, we're all at different paths, right? And we're at different stages in our journey. And I think for you to always just acknowledge one's position within that journey, um, and and start from that point of humility, I think we're able to also more precisely distinguish what is like appropriative versus one which is just honest and sincere. And one could be making mistakes in this process, but to put yourself out there, that's one thing to celebrate. In my opinion, maybe we can turn it over to Abundant Life Tarot.
Hello, everyone. A lot has happened in the time since the summit, for me personally, and with the channel, I had made a decision to kind of pull back and step back for a moment from talking about a lot of racial things, because in our country, in the United States, it became very, it became very adversarial here. And so in my real life, it became a lot. So I just had to kind of step back. After the summit, we had a couple of different videos that happened following that. I recorded a video, a follow-up. I get all emotional about it because, you know, whenever you're talking about racial issues in a spiritual community and you're a person of color, either people will be, you know, embracing that or not. And so there would be emails coming, my comment section blew up. And so just because I'm going through my own personal transformation and being a person of color at this time in history in this country, where you have Proud Boys driving down the street with, you know, AK-47, you know, images emblazed on their windshield. And I live in our state capital, and you see the political climate there, you see what's going on. It's too real for me. So real, in fact, that like what Havana mentioned, that why put my money to like mass market publishers who aren't willing to listen. It feels like such an uphill battle. I feel that way about this country. I feel that way to the point I've sold all my possessions and I'm going to go live abroad for a while because I need distance. I need space. And I couldn't even do the homework that I want to do that we had in September because there's so much else going on in my world. I love my decks. I love my independently produced decks even more because those creators get it. And yeah, they're more pricier. Yeah, they're an investment, but I make that investment because those people make the investment in things that matter to me. I want my money to go to where it matters to me. So some successes though that I've seen is that the support, like from Kelly Ann Maddox, like she had Shamanic Arwek Priestess on her channel recently, and I just did such a happy dance because, you know, she takes the time to elevate, you know, people of color, and it just gets that's those little steps excite me and keep me going. But then I think about all the other stuff in our world, and it's too much. So I don't have a lot to offer in terms of like deck suggestions, but ask me in a few more months and we'll see where I'm at. But right now, not there yet. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's just been a lot, right? In terms of the elections that just happened as well, and how, yeah, our spiritual community has to also kind of like acknowledge how someone had mentioned spiritual bypassing earlier, but sometimes it can also venture toward complicity to, for example, conspiratorial thinking, in ways in which certain kinds of disinformation, you know, are kind of like rooted or maybe targeted or flourish within the wellness spiritual communities. And of course, kind of try to provide a different framework for understanding all the uncertainty that's going on, right? So I think that's important to acknowledge, and where the tarot community stands within that broader space. I can see Sanskrit Blue nodding her head, and I wanted to pass it on to her next.
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, I've kind of been on a hiatus in general from the greater community, and yeah, I don't. Someone else was saying earlier, like you feel kind of like and maybe it was Emmett, like you feel completely different now than 3 months ago. Like, you know, you can feel that you've changed and things have changed, and I've had a lot of a sense of that as well. My priorities have changed a lot. I don't feel I don't know. I don't feel like I see a huge amount of shift anywhere with things. And I don't know quite what to do with that. I'm really scared about like where our country's going right now. I'm scared about what all of it means. And really, I don't know, you know, I when I get ready to record a video or I get ready to consider putting one out, I come back to like, well, who is it for? Like, who is this for? Why are you doing this? What is your interest behind it? You know, and I just end up kind of feeling like I don't have much to offer, much to say, generally. So I've just resorted to allowing that to be okay. Like, just then if you don't have anything of value to offer or put out, then don't, you know, like sit back and breathe, think about it. You know, there have been a lot of aha moments. There are so many aha moments from reading this book. I've really had a lot of pretty swift kicks in the ass, you know, over that time, doing the homework in here, doing the homework for the Buddhist organization that I work with, where we, you know, we have devoted like a whole chunk of our Sangha to dismantling our own attachment to white supremacy and looking at it really honestly. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot to take in, and it's a lot to be with in a really good way. It feels like a relief, you know, it feels like a, I don't want to say like a weight off, but it's, you know, I don't know, I guess identifying those things, and realizing like, oh, wow, that I did that. That's what I was doing, you know, having the penny drop, you know, it's beautiful. And it's also a lot to integrate then, you know, to move forward and say, okay, So then what do I, how do I work with that further in a way that feels like, that feels authentic and these things have to germinate before there's something to offer. They require time for something new to grow out of it. So I've just been allowing space for that while trying to continue doing things in my own community. Our doula group, I'm a death doula, in addition to doing the tarot work. And, we've been looking at ways of serving communities of color locally and understanding better, what the differences are in terms of approaching end of life. And that was shocking, that there was a lot of really shocking and heartbreaking information that would not surprise anybody, I think, in this group, because a lot of times there is no end of life conversation to have at all, because it's ultimately a medical conversation that went completely awry and led to an untimely death. Yeah, there's just, I think it's, I don't know. I think maybe sometimes too, it's hard to say, like, we're not seeing progress because right now I think we're still watching things be dismantled. And I think that allowing space to have things be dismantled is really important. I'm kind of enjoying it in a weird way. I kind of keep hoping to see more things get dismantled because we need that in order to build something new and something that's better and stronger. So yeah, that's kind of it. Do I get to pass it on?
Sure, Natalie.
Sure, thank you. So I pass it on to Liz.
Thank you, Natalie. So I've been giving a lot of thought to what happened at our last summit, and thinking about myself and my role that I play in this community and in sort of racism and white supremacy in general.
Yeah.
I'm I've been a social activist all my life since I was like 18. So, I think of myself as, I'm on the right side. I'm, progressive, whatever. And one of the things that I have been hearing these past few months and sort of having to address in myself is, well, you're kind of defensive sometimes when you hear a person of color say, something about racism. And, sometimes my first reaction was, oh yeah, but I'm not like that, so I've really been kind of trying to sit with that reaction and think, okay, you you got to move beyond that reaction. That's not helpful really to anyone. It's really being defensive. So I've been kind of processing that and thinking about that, and thinking about, well, what can I do to contribute to undoing racism in this culture. And I don't know, I haven't had any great ideas that are huge and big, but I'm trying to do little things like, okay, I'm trying to not be defensive. I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to think about, okay, why are you feeling that way? How can you feel differently? On my Instagram, I try when I post, not really reviews, but post different decks, I try to say, this deck is not as inclusive as it could be. And I try to tag the publisher. I don't know that does a lot of good, but I just figure, hey, give it a try. I've messaged publishers. But I don't know, as Havana's saying, maybe we just need to move on from them and forget about them, because maybe really we're not their audience. Maybe their audience is somebody else that doesn't care about inclusivity. I don't know. And I definitely do tend to purchase indie decks more than mass market decks. So I don't know. But I also was thinking that I live in a small town, and the town that I live in, they have a No Place for Hate group, and every Sunday at noon on the town green, they have a little, Black Lives Matter, No Place for Hate, I don't know, vigil, I guess you can call it. And I've been going to that with my sister. And a couple weeks ago, we were, driving into town on a Sunday, and, we were saying to each other, why are we doing this? Like, what's the point? I mean, is there a point? Is it for us? Is it for other people? Like, why are we doing this? But after I went to that little gathering of folks, I thought to myself, no, I think these little things are important, because if every town has a little gathering every Sunday or Saturday or whatever at 12, we have to keep this in the public eye. We can't say, okay, yeah, this was bad, we all demonstrated and now we're done. We're not done. We're nowhere near done. So I feel like we do need to keep doing these little things. And maybe it seems like it is too little a thing, but I'm going to keep doing it, because at least it's something. So I don't know. That's what I have to say.
I think that resonates with a lot of educators, right? Like, you want to kind of hope that it might not pay off right now, but with your students eventually down the road, that they might be able to find the right language, find the right tools to actually implement those changes. And it might mean dismantling the system, but I'm excited how folks here are not, accepting, for example, Biden's victory and the discourse of like a time for healing, like at face value. Like, we're still engaged, we're still critical, we're still trying to fight. And I'm hearing that from many of you. I'll pass it on to Arcane Panda.
Can you guys hear me? I just read a thing that said the quote of 2020 is like, can you guys hear me? Can you guys see me? But I guess I just wanted to say that to all of you guys that are here and the people that were at the first panel, the things that you are doing, I deeply appreciate. And even if they seem like they're small, they give me strength. You guys are giving someone strength, and I want you to know that. For me, I just feel, I wish I could hug Kim. Since our last panel, things here in the very rural Midwest fell apart. Our town held a rally to re-add the Confederate flag to our town sign in the police cars. They were burning Black Lives Matter flags. And we're not even in the South. Like, there's no reason except for racism for these things that they were doing. And so then when something is so big and you don't know how to affect change, it's almost like getting stuck because you get overwhelmed. So I spent a lot of time stuck because I was like, I don't know how to fix this, and I don't know how to keep my children safe, and I don't know what to do. So for a lot of time, I felt I didn't do anything. I wasn't doing anything. I didn't really get the homework done. I was just kind of stuck, and it was like surviving, which is such a weird thing to say. But the things that I would see that you guys are doing, and the decks that you're showcasing, and the people that you're spotlighting, and the channel shares that you're doing, and the posts that you're putting up, it gave me strength, because you know that there's still good people out there. There's still people that care and that are fighting. So I was stuck for a long time. And then I was like, I'll start with how I spend my money, because Queen Onset talked about the bottom line. And so I really looked at where I was spending money, how I was spending money, the things I was bringing in. And so I really challenged myself, and I found amazing things. I connected with amazing people. This is the Black Goddess Within Oracle deck created by Dr. Giovanni Washington. I had her on my channel, and actually ended up taking her course that is built around racial healing and ancestral restoration, decolonization. I did some more digging. I found this deck here that's called Love Yourself, and the images on that are just absolutely gorgeous. I met a lot of good people who are going through the same things, and it helped me to show up and to be able to continue on. But it was kind of, with my channel, I wanted to make sure that I was able to showcase these decks and hold space for these creators. A lot of them are small creators, but doing big spiritual work. But yeah, like it was kind of waffling back and forth between creating content and trying to be invisible so that you can, you know, keep your family safe when you live in an area where there's 10 other Black people. So yeah, but I appreciate you guys, and I probably wouldn't have made it this far without all of you guys, and seeing your Instagram posts and your content that you share and the support that you give. And so even if you feel like it's not very big, the stuff that you're doing gives me strength. It makes our community stronger and better. And so I appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I think for most of us here, right, we have been on survival mode for most of 2020. And that's why stories such as yours, I see you as a responsible creator, a very mindful producer and creator. But for each one of us, we all learn from each other and we absorb each other's energy and are inspired, are encouraged by each other. And I think just showing up and being present in the kind of everyday work that you do is super important. At the same time, the experiences of somebody in the Midwest, people in the South, right? Like the very real political events have seeped into the everyday. And I think for those of us, we cannot like ignore politics as something that is just separate from our spiritual practice. And thank you for sharing also about those decks that you mentioned, and how some teachers are incorporating very mindfully racial healing, decolonization in their work. I think there's so much to learn in that, from that. Anyone who wants to kind of engage with what Arcane Panda has just said?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So yeah, I've been reflecting a lot. And, you know, when I got into tarot, I just kind of accepted that, okay, well, this is how it is. And, you know, I just kind of became numb to it and just kind of went with the flow of it. And so as I started thinking about it, I was like, wow, you know, I recently, I've been more vigilant about looking at decks and seeing if they're inclusive. And I got a deck recently, and I want to point this one out. It's called the Lost Hollow, and it came out not too long ago. And when I was flipping through it, I saw a lot of diversity, not just with, you know, with skin color, but with a lot of different things. And I thought to myself, were they listening? What is this, something that, you know, sparked some sort of change in this? So this company is Pixel Occult, because I have a few decks from them before, and I was like, you know, it's kind of like when I was little, I was watching Rocky IV, and I saw that for the first time. And, you know, I saw that Rocky's friend Apollo was beaten by his opponent. And then it was Rocky's turn to fight this opponent. And he just looked so invincible. He looked like, you know, he might as well just give up. He might as well just throw in the towel. And, you know, you're worried about the whole situation. And then then like towards the end of the fight, his opponent gets this small cut, and Rocky realizes this is just a man. This is not something that I should just turn away from. And when I was looking at this deck the other day, I was like, something inside of me shifted, and I was like, you know what? It's possible. This isn't something that is out of our reach. And I wanted to the guy that the creator is James Brothel. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. I'm not sure, but it's so inclusive. And I was looking through it. When I got this deck, I wasn't even thinking about getting a diverse deck. But then when I got it, I thought, I want to see more like this. And it made me feel differently when I connected with it. And it just transformed the way I was thinking. I was kind of complacent and just going with what was already there, and accepting that's how it was. And it strengthened me a bit to see things. And so recently I've just been so much more aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And it hasn't so much been an outward reflection of tarot in general, but also a reflection of me and why I'm making the choices I'm making, and what does that say about things. And so I'm not so Lost Hollow. You guys got it right in the chat. So I'm not so optimistic. I know that there's a long way to go, but it's kind of just like that little small thing, that little chip that's like, oh, okay, I can see how this can work out now. And I'm excited, and it builds that excitement. Like, I'm a teacher, and I try to point out the little things in my students. So, if they do one thing that's wrong, I'll try to point out 2 or 3 that are good. I'll make a mental note. And I know that when I tell a student a bunch of positive things, even though they may be acting a certain way, they start to, in their mind, they start to say, well, I don't want to disappoint him because he thinks of me this way. And I respect, what he's thinking. If he's thinking of me like I'm a great person, then I want to be that way. And so I see that change in them when I point out those things. And I kind of see it the same way with tarot. So I just want to point out that I see all the great things that you guys are doing. And it really does inspire me, and it really does build me up. So, I know it's a challenge, because even on my channel, I was talking to my girlfriend the other day about doing another video and talking about some serious topics. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I want to do that now. And so a lot of times with some of my videos, I'll embed some things within some of the lessons about diversity and about acceptance, but I won't overtly say it. But I really like to converse with people about it, and I think that this platform's wonderful, and it's just really helped me to kind of reflect and move forward and really heal a lot. Because when I looked at a deck that was diverse and in a lot of different ways, it was like refreshing, and it did something very positive within me. So it's just these little things that are good, and they do set the stage for stuff. And I know it's hard, and I know that it's easy for, like, even within me sometimes I think, well, forget it, because I'll still buy a deck that's not diverse, and I'll just say, well, I'll just shift back to what it was, and maybe that's how it's going to be. But this strengthens me, and it just keeps me moving, it keeps it fresh in my head, like, okay, no, that's not what I need to accept. So that's kind of where I'm at with my thoughts and just thinking about things in general.
Thank you so much, Will. So in a way that connects to some of the themes that Jen and Amit had also raised about creating content that is more overtly social justice oriented, overtly political, or should it be kind of like within existing genres of the deck reviews? So those two techniques are equally important and meaningful. But what you said about being seen by a tarot deck and how it made you feel differently. This is a question that I have asked Queen Osette and Tom and Kasha and Renee when we were planning. Like, what do you think is really specific about the tarot community and their challenges? And why are some of you, in a way, kind of like more pessimistic than other communities? For example, the astrology community, the crystals community. Like, do you think that there's something about the tarot community that is particularly challenged when it comes to social justice and race-related issues? And so I'd love for us to engage that question later on. We still have a few more who haven't spoken. James, did you want to? Yeah.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So I think in listening to you all, I really felt just so I was taken aback just hearing what everybody's been up to and the things that you all have observed that I, for one, would have missed. So I think it's so valuable for us to share the information and the changes that we see, because of course we're only one individual. It's almost like the tarot community is like an organism, and each of us has our own role and we fit a spot. And I love to see where everybody's been and what you've all been up to. But as far as changes that I've seen, I've really actually been getting rid of most of my collection and not taking in decks at all for the majority of this year. But I think a big area for me, and this has connected to tarot, and I think it connects to a lot of industries, is more so in publishing and writing. I guess I spent a lot of the first portion of this year looking to texts on race and anti-racism by authors of color and Black authors. But then I think I sort of had this sort of moment where I was almost I tried to challenge myself to think not all authors of color and not all Black authors are just writing about race. Like, what other, I personally love sci-fi and fantasy, and there are so many wonderful Black authors writing sci-fi and fantasy, and that is a genre that I incorporate into my tarot practice. And we take elements from all sorts of places in fiction and literature and incorporate them into tarot decks and the imagery, and that affects who then feels welcome in these spaces. So I've personally tried to maybe just diversify my bookshelf, not even in terms of books that are just on race, but looking to Black authors and authors of color who are just writing in general, creating amazing work out there, and seeing that there's a lot more complexity in, I would just say, literature overall. So that's been an area, and I've seen a few books that have been out of print that were published in the 80s and 90s by authors of color that didn't get the attention they deserved, being republished now with new cover art. And it's just been really heartwarming to see. I do try to keep my pulse on that. I had a brief time in publishing, actually working in reprints of books. So that's something I kind of am fixated on at times. So really enjoying seeing that. And I remember last time I spoke a little bit to algorithms, and to me, that's something that I like to try to pay attention to, I guess, like an analytical mind. So I focus on what am I being shown and why. So being mindful, there was some people I had to unfollow, and then trying to be very mindful in the people that I continued to follow, and then observing how what I was being suggested and shown was changing, and knowing and feeling kind of a sense of hope in that if I am very conscientious about the content creators and the viewers and all of that, that it will slowly start to reflect on a level that I think is very helpful. So that's just a few of the changes and areas that I've noticed the most.
And I think it speaks a lot to the power of the homework that Queen Osette had instructed for us to undertake, that many of us are responding with how we have incorporated that into our everyday lives. So not just as our persona as tarot readers or healers, right? But through acts of following people on Instagram, the kinds of books that we have tried to discover or rediscover. And yeah, being mindful about who we amplify, who we follow, where we invest our money in. And I think, yeah, all those resources that Queen Rosette had instructed for us to take forward is very influential in that way. I can see Lennon. Did you want to go next?
Please, I've been sitting here like this, passing the stick around. I was like, oh my goodness. Okay. All right. Now listen, I'm gonna be, what did Queen Osset tell me? She said to be real. Let's be real. Okay. When Natalie just said something about stopping herself from putting content because you're too busy thinking about who it's for. Yes, I think that that's important. Okay. But then as Arcane Panda said, I need you right now. I need my community. How are we supposed to be a community if we're not putting content out? So then when we put content out, yeah, it's important to sit with, you know, who the audience is for. Let's continue the dialogue. Like we're continuing it. It's not just we've stopped at the last summit and now we're thinking about our content. No, we still need to be putting content out. I think when I put videos out, I'm thinking about Arcane Panda. I'm thinking about her sitting there with her beautiful face. I want her to say, you know what, I got to go check Lennon out because she's going to make me feel better today. That's what being part of the community is. And I think I've seen a lot more. I went to, where is she at? Kim's channel. She did a unboxing, and not that there was dialogue per se on her channel about diversity in decks, but she was unboxing a deck that happened to be diverse. And so I commented, I was like, this is scrumptious. This is scrumdiddlyumptious. And I had to, because I wanted her to know this is beautiful. You know, when I don't unbox decks on my channel. That's just not what my channel is. But I want to have the dialogue. If we're uncomfortable, like Jen was saying earlier, say that. Unboxing this deck, Hoodoo Teller. This is a Hoodoo Tarot. Unboxing this, if I were to have an unboxing channel, okay? Yeah, I'm gonna be like, well, you know, but then say that. There's nothing, nobody's sitting right here, right? If somebody in the community wanted to slap me for something, go right ahead. Queen Osset slapped me a couple of times. You know, I'm up for it. If I say something wrong, if you're in a community, right? And I go to the grocery store, I expect somebody to tell me where the ham is at, where the vegetables are at, right? I expect that when I walk into that grocery store. Just like when somebody comes to my channel, they're expecting me to be real, show vulnerability, right? How are we supposed to grow and continue if we're not showing the real parts, the uncomfortable parts, the reading of the books and saying, well, you know, maybe I need to message Queen Osset, or maybe I need to message Arcane Panda and see what her thoughts are on this deck. Maybe I should have them on my channel. You know, what about asking Tiana McQuiller, right? She does ancestor, like you can email her right now and get an ancestor reading. And I'm thinking, you know, maybe we should do that. And it's about talking about what you're doing. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable, right? But then I want to jump on the channel and be like, okay, people, let's be real, you know, and if I'm wrong, let me know. There's nothing, I feel like that's how we're going to be this beautiful community, you know? I want to be there for y'all, and I want y'all to be there for me. And I think that's how we're going to grow. Also, because I'm a bit of a rambler. I had an idea. The publishing thing. Let's say here in the US, we have this tarot symposium. Okay, it's that big thing, the Northwest Tarot Symposium. How come somebody's not going there? You know, let's not go to the big US games, you know, right off the rip. But what if we start at the Tarot Symposium? Somebody go and do an actual symposium on diversity index or where it's lacking. Have an actual chat with thousands of people. You know, that's a step down from like the big publishing companies, but that's still a step in the right direction. I feel like maybe somebody could go and chat right there at the Northwest Tarot Symposium about this topic, doing what we're doing right now. There's thousands of people that go there. And I know that's US based, but that was an idea that popped in my head like way earlier. So anyway.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for keeping it real. So that example that you mentioned, Lennon, I see that in the astrology community. They have a queer astrologers conference, and it's mostly younger queer folk, people of color as well, organizing it. And I can, and that also like prompts me, like, how come we don't have those, like an equivalent of that within the tarot community? And perhaps it's something you guys would want to take forward. I can see Renee and Kasha who haven't spoken. Renee, do you want to go?
Hi. So let's see. We've been talking about a lot of things. After, gosh, there's so much in my head right now. So after the first panel that we had, I felt really the sense of community, like real sense of community, like we're going to work together, we're going to talk, we're going to be, like Lennon was saying, we're going to be more honest, we're going to be more open. We're not going to be hiding so much behind the veneer of, you know, love and light. You know, we're going to really like be honest with each other. And I felt really good after the panel. And then something happened after the panel that felt like a slap in the face. And that actually taught me a lot about looking inward, looking at myself and questioning what are my motivations in lots of different areas of my interactions with racial justice. So the panel was huge for me. On the one hand, I felt a real sense of community, and on the other, it really got me to dig deep and look in the dark corners of my own performative allyship and what that means to do that. So it was very powerful for me. And I have learned so much in my real life. So not on YouTube, but in my real life, my husband and I have conversations so often about race, so often about what it means to be. I live in a city that's known for its progressive politics. And I have gotten to see up close what it looks like when progressive liberals are gatekeepers and try to keep the status quo. And it has been, you know, I did a lot of the homework. I mean, I read Hood Feminism and I read a lot of books. But when you see it in real life, it's almost surreal. You know, the anti-Black sentiment is so strong sometimes that it kicks me back. And I think to myself, my God, like they just said that. I can't believe it. And then of course, well, yeah, you can't believe it because that's not your lived experience, you know, and then I can like spiral into, but I have to hold myself to the goal. And I often will talk to Queen Osset and she'll be like, you know, you have to keep your eye on the ball. You can't get like sidetracked. So what I have learned from the panel that we had is there is a community. We are strong. We are here to listen to each other and to support each other. We do need to be more honest. We do need to have honest conversations. I am really proud of what Queen Osset and I did on my channel, and I think we're going to do it on her channel, and I think we might maybe have a new channel for it, and that's, what is it, Queen Osset? Real Talk, Real Connection? I can't remember what we called it. Real Talk, Real Connection. And so everything that I've just said, you can distill that down into real conversations with real people, being really honest, being really vulnerable. That's how you're going to get change. you know, the conversations I'm having with my husband, the conversations I'm having with my son, the conversations I'm having with my family and my friends, and then here on YouTube. That excites me, and that gives me hope. And the one last thing, I think I've rambled, hope is a very interesting concept. Before this whole thing happened, I had an idea of hope, which is, my definition of hope changed into something that is very strong and resilient and not tied to, do I think it's going to happen in my lifetime? But it's more about integrity and how I'm just going to keep working towards it no matter what. Okay, sorry, rambled. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renee. Well, I think we all learned so much from the last panel and also the conversations that happened afterwards. So for me, it's actually my academic research the past few months to understand the psyche of Asian Americans who vote for Trump and the right-wing Asian community, and yeah, how do they justify that position? So to see that kind of materialize in my passion, which is tarot, like it was like the merging of two worlds and how anti-black racism within Asian communities, something that has to be acknowledged and really studied, really confronted and called out. And I think many of you here had produced videos to really understand what happened and work through what was going on. And I think for any one of us who might be in a position of being targeted or in a position of harm, for someone else to speak for us, that's so important. And I think many of you here have done that. So I can only see Akasha who hasn't spoken. So you wanna?
Yeah, can you hear me? Hi, everyone. First thing that came to my mind is to respond to Arcane Panda, because you moved me by saying that like we give you strength, but from my perspective, if like you, Havana, Kim, Queen Osset, if you guys weren't on YouTube or on IG, or I haven't been able to see you and hear you and see you on, you know, talk about your lives, I wouldn't know anything about your lives. So from my perspective, I wanted to just thank you for actually being vulnerable enough and strong enough and creative enough and just brilliant to come up and share, because I find it, I'm the only not American person in this group, and I'm the only not UK person in this group. I live in 99% white community since I was born. Not to say that I never see any people of color other than white color around me, but very, very rarely, because I'm also in the east of Poland, which is like smaller, really rural kind of place, you know, and so I find it really hard for me to get off theory of anti-racism. And I know, you know, like through reading, I realized, and after our panel, I realized so much of that kind of white privilege and all of this stuff that I didn't even cross my mind, not before the panel, but like it did cross my mind before the panel, but the panel just also, you know, like brought it all forward. And yeah, I've done a lot of reading and a lot of, you know, white supremacy by Layla Saad before, way before panel. And I realized before that I never thought there were any differences between us, because I never had that American perspective. And on one hand, that was beautiful, but on the other hand, it was maybe also sometimes dangerous, but I never got to practice it much in real life. So I found it, yeah, I find it quite, a little bit like what other people were saying, that sometimes I find it like, I don't know what to say in the videos, let's say, because I find myself so like removed from the reality of what you guys live. And yeah, I find it hard. So I think the only thing maybe that I should be doing more is to saying that it's difficult, like just sharing basically my experience. I think that's what I thought I will be doing more. I really loved the Skin Deep project, and also that video that you had, that Queen Osset and Rene did, which you, Rene, mentioned just in your last bit. I thought after the summit, that was my favorite video ever. First of all, to see you all together. And I think because there were more Black people in the community, you guys felt so much more relaxed. And it was just, to me, it was, I learned more about you than from any probably other videos. And I thought that I love that idea, that I would love to kind of pick up the ball a little bit. And I purchased those cards for friends and for strangers. So I would love to do something like this with just, yeah, mixed community. So from next year, I would love to do one of those as well. I think this is really, really cool idea. And from the practical levels, I think I could have done much more. You know, using this language, I probably could say that, like, yeah, being privileged, I could have taken time off. And I kind of, my life took me into Croatia for a few months with, like, yeah, I just didn't plan it for so long. It just was going on. And in general, I felt mostly uninspired throughout this whole year, to be honest. So I was doing less videos in general, just like I do review decks, but I never really, mostly since 4 years, if you guys ever watched any of my channels, like I mostly do in like, not individual, what are they? The, not mass-produced decks. You know what I mean. Independent decks, yeah. So I'm mostly interested now in, like, yeah, I definitely shifted my position on looking at decks, but I feel like I was always quite inclusive. And, you know, I had interviews with people of color before the Black Lives Matters happened, and not many, but I did. And also, you know, being quite honest here, like I would love to see more decks, more creators of color putting decks out, so that I'm not just bound to buy this deck because it's by the Black creator or Asian creator of any other creator, but I don't like it. You know? Like I just don't want to get it just because I don't want to feel like I have to buy it. So I think the one deck that I would really want to get is this Afro Tarot. I like this one by Jessie Jumanji. It's quite a stretch, to be honest. It was on like pre-order, like it's 77, I think, or $88 plus postage to Europe. So I think next year, yeah, it gets quite expensive, but I like this one. So I would love to see, I think, I don't know how we could as community, and here maybe the big, I don't even think big producers, but I don't know how we could support or highlight more artists to come forth with their creations, so that they feel that there is, you know, interest, and there is kind of like we would love to see more decks like Dust to Onyx or Hoodoo Tarot, or like these two I have and I love. You know what, actually I wanted to share, because I just looked at this by chance, but at this Mud Tarot, and this is from 2006. And Havana, you were talking about, I don't know if you can see, like body, you know, interpretations, which are different, you know, which I also personally love. And I thought, wow, this is like 2006, my favorite Justice card ever. And this was already like happening, you know, this deck is like really quite diverse for, like even the lovers, you know, like smart. You can use these lovers when you're queer, when you're lesbian, when you're gay, when you're Black, when you're white. Like it's you don't know. You just see two bodies basically, but you're not sure if they. And this isn't it your election card? Eight of Swords with American flag and just, yeah. So anyway, I thought, like, you know, these decks were happening before, they are happening now. And I think we chatted about it also in our pre-run yesterday or on Friday, that I think personally the shift is happening. I see more inclusivity, but also when it comes to like those big publishing companies, our channel, let's say our panel was like 3 months ago. So, you know, they probably had decks planned for the whole year, let's say. So we may be looking for outcome of what we're talking about now, maybe next year or maybe 22, you know. So I think what Renee said, like with this hope, like not to give up and, you know, just keep talking about it, basically. Also, I had an email from Hay House UK about this Phyllis Carrot deck, and they said they were really interested in joining one of those summits. It didn't really happen. I mean, maybe to a full disclosure, like I let them know quite late about our summit because we found out quite, like we just did the shaman time and we're doing it. So I think I let them know maybe a bit too late. Like, let's say we met on Sunday, I let them know on Monday, the last week. So the lady who communicated with me, the email came back that she's on leave. But anyway, so it didn't happen, but they were interested in joining one of those conversations. So maybe next time, you know, I give them more notice, and hopefully it would be lovely to have, you know, some of the publishers join us. So if they're listening, I'm going to send this recording to them as well. They can take a look. Would be lovely to join you, Hay House, if you're listening, and all the other publishers. Yeah, and I think that's me for now. I talked a lot. Thanks, John.
Yeah, so I think everyone has spoken, and now I think I'd love to hear from Queen Osset to take stock and in a way kind of like audit, in her view, how has she seen the community be on survival mode or improve in the past couple of months. And I'd love to press also on the question of the professional organization aspect, which Lennon and Kasia had kind of gestured towards, and whether we think that to come in as a more formal organization, the community coming together in that kind of more formal capacity might have more of a stronger lobbying voice to the publishers, and whether you think there's a way forward there.
Thank you, John. The other day I asked myself, why am I doing this? You know, there's no glory in this. Why am I doing this? And it does go back to hope, being a visionary, knowing that a change can be made, knowing that the first person who has ever done anything first, initially, you know, there's always, like we had technical difficulties today, you know, there's always going to be glitches and such like that. But you can never be afraid to try, you know, and that's all I can do is step up. And I'm sitting here and I listen to all of you guys, and I'm so pleasantly surprised by everything that you have been doing and brought to the table, because I'm going to tell you, from my perspective, from what I've been seeing, what I've been looking at, I was like, well, maybe nothing's really happening. You know, maybe the fervor has died down. You know, maybe, you know, we'll go back to our regular scheduled programming. You know, it'll pass, right? It'll pass. I don't have to worry about social injustice and racial diversity and you know, all of that. That time, it's no longer trending. Okay. So I sit here and I'm listening. I'm like, oh my gosh, people are really doing work from where they are. And that's the only thing that I asked, right? One of the things I told Renee was, I don't know, I don't have a goal for what this is supposed to achieve in that sense. Outside of us having the conversations, having the dialogue, and not being afraid to just speak and share, because that is the only way that we're going to be able to exchange information. The only way you're going to understand and get to know a bit about my experience, right? We have to have that dialogue. So, John, I mean, I'm sitting here and, you know, I don't usually get emotional, but I'm like, oh my gosh, I have a little bit of hope. Now, I know that it's going to take time. You know, I didn't expect even this to take place in the 3 months that it did. So I know that the changes that we're looking for, more inclusivity and all of that, is going to take time to evolve. Now, speaking from a retailer's perspective as well. So, you guys, I work in a woo-woo shop, okay? So we have access to a gazillion mass market decks, right? That's how we make our money. That's how we eat, by selling those decks. But I do have a bit of influence as to like, okay, what decks are we going to sell? What decks are we going to put out there? Because we pay attention to the demographic that comes into the shop. People are looking for more independent decks. Okay, they are. They're thirsty for something new, dynamic, innovative. They're looking for that. But that does not mean that I put aside the mass market decks as well. My last video, I talked about the Kali Oracle, and I broke it down from, it's a mass market deck, right? So that's the stance that I'm going to take in regards to mass market decks. This is what I'm working with, but I feel like I want to serve as a font of information to say, okay, this is what's created on a mass market level. You might want to take a closer look at this. And I know, again, sometimes we might feel like we have no say-so or no control as to what the big companies are doing, but you really do. We can, at some point, they will hear. You have to keep up the momentum. You have to keep up, keep applying that pressure, right? They're going to get that message like, this is not going to be satisfactory. We'll start to see a decline in sales. We'll start to see, people turning away from what we normally churn out. We can't keep churning out the same drivel and expect people to accept that. I don't know. I just feel that, my analogy, a grain of sand. And honestly, I did not think that things were happening, right? I didn't see it, and so for all of you, I'm really grateful for everything you've been doing. Now, Lennon, I don't slap Lennon. Okay, I just did. Okay, okay. In my defense, I didn't, but maybe in a way I did, because this is the thing that I do. I'm going to ask the questions. I'm the one that's going to ask, well, why are you thinking that way? Where did you get that from? Right? And it doesn't always make me the most popular person, because now I'm starting to question the status quo. I'm starting to question what has always been done. Right? But I don't question to be antagonistic. I question because I'm curious. I really want to know your thought process. And I really want to know if you, as an individual human being, can think on your own, right? And still be part of the collective. And I go back to, I just finished watching, The Queen's Gambit. That was, there was a line in there where they talk about, in this country, we're so used to working individually, right? But the Russians work collectively. Like when there's a break, they all work collectively so that they can have the winner, right? One person wins, everybody celebrates. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's the concept. It's great to be individual. We stress individualism, but I think that, there's more there's more strength and power working collectively. Everyone can bring something to the table that can start to shift things in the direction that we want things to go. You know, I had a quote here, I don't know where, I tend to write down scraps of things. Change is never a matter of ability. It is a matter of motivation. And, you know, my question to you is like, what motivates you? What drives you to want to do this? Because at the end of the day, you really don't have to do any of this. You can go back to doing what you've ordinarily done, but you've decided to step onto a platform. I mean, it's like walking on a bed of coals. And you guys, I'm telling you, when I sent out that invite, everybody was like, yes, I'm coming back, I'm coming back, I'm coming back. I'm telling you, I thought it would just be me, Ben, Kasha, and Renee. I'm serious. I wasn't really sure like who was ready to come back. And, you know, people didn't hesitate. They were like, yes, I want to be part of this dialogue. Like, yes, we're going to check in. Yes, we want to do something here, you know? So that's where I am, John.
Can I just—
Your timer went off? Okay, gotcha.
I just want to say that a sentence that you said in the last session really struck with me, that you were not looking for allies, but you were looking for accomplices.
Yes.
I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I didn't understand the difference between the two. And after the last 3 months, I totally understand. I understand what we're up against. I understand the prejudice. I understand the walls. We have to get our sledgehammer. We have to start working. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to maybe take years, but we're here. We will change it, you know, one brick at a time.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, one of the other, so Renee touched on this as well. This is something we're doing moving into 2021. Real talk, real connections, right? And we're doing this. And, you know, these are questions that Tarot reflects our lives, right? The art is political. Havana said it, right? Tarot reflects what's going on around us. And maybe artists need more fuel, right? Maybe they need more inspiration, especially considering the current climate that we're living in right now. This is how we have to engage each other. So, you know, artists who are creating decks, they don't have the freedom to go out and about. They're limited. So maybe us doing, you know, real talk, real connections will provide them with another resource so they can continue to create decks that reflect the world around us. Yeah. What are you talking about, Nat? What? Oh, you read the first chapter? Yeah.
I read, yeah, it was trying to understand what, you know, what just following, piggybacking on Elron's prior statement, just trying to understand what you meant really deeply about the difference between an ally and
an accomplice. Yes.
And it really, I just said in the comments or in the messages here that it knocked me on my butt. It knocked me on my ass because until that point, I just didn't understand the impact of my own actions and why that was just completely ineffectual and not helpful at all.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the wake-up call I needed. And you know, when I say that's a relief, it's a relief. You know, to understand or to know better is a relief.
Mm-hmm. I know I told Tom and Kasha and Renee and John, like, that's why I've been quiet today. I don't want to be the one. It's a lot of work to come up with the questions and put everything together, and it's a lot of work. So John, I really appreciate you coming up with the questions and, you know, having everyone speak. Yeah, you know what I mean? We're gonna have you back as the moderator. Okay.
Thank you. It's a responsibility that, I don't take lightly.
I appreciate that because I just, like I said, I just went in with an idea And I don't know anything about moderating. I don't. I just want to, I just see a problem, I want to solve it. That's what I do, right? And so it's like, okay, so how are we going to solve this problem? I need someone to pick up a sledgehammer, someone to pick up the power drill. I need, get the concrete, da 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 da. We have to tear down the tower. Okay, so what is my mantra, Renee? What is my mantra, Renee? What is it? Renee knows my mantra.
Burn it down, burn it all down.
I'm sorry, that's my mantra. Burn it down, raise it, so we can let's build, right? Let's rebuild. I think that we've been in a place where we've been, I keep saying this, holding up the tower for so long and patching it, holding it together with bubble gum and duct tape, and you know what I mean? Just doing the best we can, and all. Burn that shit down. Burn it down. Clear it away.
Have
Get
you
rid of the
seen
debris.
the Morning Calm Oracle? There's a card, burn it down.
Really?
Yeah.
In the Morning Calm Oracle? Wow. Okay. Yeah. See? Right? Yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to a fantastic 2021. And I'm going to tell you, I got a couple of videos I want to do as well. And that was part of it as if you notice, like I do walkthroughs of different types of decks. I'm not looking for all melanated decks or decks created by people of color. I have a couple. I have the Pistis. I want to say Pistis Sophia Pistis, that deck. I have a couple of things that I want to do as well. There's just different elements, but I can recognize when the perspective of the world is not embraced. Now that's a choice that creator makes, and I want that to be completely understood. We're not forcing anyone to do what you're not comfortable with, but I do know, and I did speak about this privately, that I know for a fact that some people make a conscious decision to say, we're not going to do it. We're not going to include anything that's not European in this deck. We're just not going to do it. And then I like to do a little digging on the creator as well, right? So you can create a deck that's, you have representation in it, but if I look at your social media and I don't see like a mix in your social life as well, that causes me to question. That's another side of it. Like, what is your worldview? What is your life like? So where are you getting your information from? You're Googling it. You're coming up with it that way. You don't have any real world connection and experience, right? And to me, that's just as problematic, But then again, it's a double-edged sword. I would never force a creator to do what they don't want to do, but it comes down to economics. I'm not going to purchase something if I don't, the word resonates with me. It's just not, I'm not going to do that. So, but yeah, you guys really, I'm not easily impressed. I'm very rarely ever impressed, but you guys, y'all been doing the damn thing. Like, wow. Thank you so much. Bye, Elron. You coming back to the next one? 3 months. So we're going to reconvene in 3 months on someone else's channel. Y'all, one of y'all get the tech stuff going. Okay? Because obviously, but yeah, let's do this again in 3 months. Let's do a check-in to see where we are, right? When I upload this video, maybe I'll put some questions in there that we can answer. Renee had a spread that she had come up with that we can probably work on, and maybe do a VR too as well to get us moving in. Tomorrow is the winter solstice, blah, blah, blah. So we're moving into a new energy, right? Kasha, maybe you can explain, like, what is this Saturn, Jupiter? what is it supposed to mean for us collectively, global? John, you're smiling, you're laughing, like, what is it supposed to mean? Like, right? Jupiter is what? The planet of expansion and growth?
We can't see the conjunction right now. It's snowing.
Oh, it's snowing where you are?
Yeah, in Amherst, Massachusetts.
Oh, and I'm in Maryland. It's probably snowing here too. Wow, great.
I'm jealous. It doesn't snow in Poland anymore.
Oh.
And we were always the coldest country. It's like,
yeah, but
the
you know,
climate change is visible.
I
Like,
know, but the snow that we're getting here is not that Christmas card snow, Kasha. It's disgustingly like sleet, and I don't even know what it is that's coming out of the sky. It's disgusting.
2020 snow.
Yes, yeah. So, did you have any other questions for us, John?
So, I was just very curious about, so in astrology, they have those more formal organizations. They
Uh-huh.
and so a kind of like structure.
Yeah.
I wonder whether that helps them lobby when it comes to publishers. And I wonder whether you guys would consider starting one, and what are the opportunities, but also the risks of having something more structured.
I had an idea that I wanted to throw out to folks. You just needed an idea. Because after we chatted with John and everyone on Friday to prep, I started thinking about Consumer Reports and JD Power and how there are these independent organizations that will say, yes, this car meets these quality standards, or yes, this dishwasher meets these quality standards. And I thought, we don't want to be a gatekeeper for artists. And like said, I don't think, it's worth telling an artist what they can and can't do. But if there was a group of folks who were happy to say, yes, this deck represents authentically what it says it does, and this artist has done their homework, and it gets this stamp, that they can, show as a sign that they have engaged with the community prior to, and publishers too, that they engaged with the community prior to launching this thing, is a thing that I thought, I don't know, more than that idea, but it has been sort of percolating in my imagination over the last few hours.
Well, okay.
At Indie Deck Review, we do have something similar to that. It needs work. We're still working on it. We have the real world representation report that we post for the reviews that we do, where it's applicable. But it needs work, but it's somewhere to start. And I think it's a good model. I worry sometimes that the publishing companies might pick up on that and then make a cheap version of it as a selling point. But
I think that's why it's got to be independent. Yeah. It is tricky because you don't want to create ickiness where it doesn't need to be there, but to have, a review panel that, is as representational, as normalized as this group is, to say, yeah, this person, just the way Queen Osset does when she looks at a new creator, do they have any credibility to say that they are creating an Orisha deck? You know what I mean? Like, or are they just another white person who heard about it and decided to sell it? So and again, like that, maybe that's not a good idea. I don't know, but I felt like
okay. So bouncing off of that, who is it? What do they call themselves? Tarot Tribe. So it's Simon, Becca, and Elle. They formed a separate channel where they actually do deck reviews simultaneously. Like the three of them will work with one deck and then come back and do like a group review of that deck, right? And then they have, I don't know how, I've watched a couple of the videos. I think they've been fair in their assessment and such, like, oh, this deck is, no, I'm going to pass it on, give it away, or they will all be in agreement and be like, oh, we're all going to keep the deck. So I don't know, it could be something like that, you know, but it's a different, but what now, so, you know, obviously I review decks differently than Simon. Okay, just that, right? I'm not into currying any favor. And like I said, it takes a little bit more than pretty good card stock to get me, right? You know, I need depth there, right? Card stock, sure, you know, but if there's nothing there, then all you have is just some paper that you can use for collage work, right? So maybe something like that, Tom. I mean, that's another thing to create if you want to do something like that. You know, we can, boy, are we forming committees?
Well, the idea of 4 or 5 perspectives on one deck is, and then a discussion about it is an interesting one, you know, because I think everyone has blind spots, certainly, you know. I said this when we were preparing, I'm hyper aware of decks where queer men are hypersexualized and they don't look like, they don't have a body like me. That's a thing that I'm always aware of. Everyone's going to have their individual things that they're looking for. So to have a collective review of a deck, I think, is a really cool way for a consumer to make a decision about a deck, which is really what I think reviews do well.
Yeah.
Given that we are massive consumers in the tarot community.
Exactly. So I don't know, maybe we could do it like on an alternating, because I think like this group that I'm looking at here seems to be like the core group of this every 3-month summit situation. Yeah. And I don't know. What do you think, Havana? Because I know Indie Review does something, but you have individual people reviewing one deck at a time.
I like the idea of multiple perspectives because that's something we've gotten criticism about. Personally, I've gotten criticism because I'm not of a specific background, but I can only, talk about my experience with that. But if other people who have different perspectives of the same deck are able to input their opinions about the deck, I feel like it's a bigger picture altogether, you know.
Yeah. I know the other day I was speaking with Larissa about the Witch's Wisdom deck, because that's one of the things I had mentioned, that I haven't seen a person of color doing a walkthrough of that deck, even though Phyllis threw a couple people that were non-white in the deck. But the deck is primarily, it's Wiccan, it's heavily Wiccan based, number one. And you have many thousands and thousands of African-American Wiccans, but I have not seen a person of color do a walkthrough of this deck. So I reached out to Larissa to see what she thought of it. And Larissa loves the deck. She loves the idea of the sword suit so far, right? And, like me, she has a heavy Celtic background, blah, blah, blah. And it was one of the things that we were actually going to talk about, because we have different perspectives on the same deck. So Tom, you're in the right vein in regards to that. Now, this is the beauty of it. Larissa and I, we're both Black women, right? And we have different experiences and different feelings about this one deck. So I think this can be done. As a matter of fact, I know it can be. It'll just be, for the most part, all of us tend to buy the same kind of decks. We tend to buy the same decks. 2 or 3 people, 3 or 4 or 5 people with the same deck, and we'll all take a look at it and just see. And maybe that will start to make that impact, right? Different points of view. We all see things differently in the deck. Like when I did the Kali Oracle, there were some things that I did not see that other people saw,
Sounds awesome.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But this will be to let the publishers know, like, it's not just one person who's looking at your deck anymore now, right? We've got a group, we've got a committee, like, if you want to call it that, the committee, okay? The woo-woo committee is reviewing your deck. Hey, House, Llewellyn, you know. Okay. All right. Oh boy. Let's see what we can do about getting that going. That'll be interesting. You know.
Yeah, I love this idea.
Yeah, right? Just to see. Okay. Anything else for us, John?
Just for my academic interest, and feel free to reach out, anyone who might be familiar with conspiracy theory and QAnon. I'm interested in folks who have seen those in your channels, whether they have commented you on your channels or trolled you. I'd like to see how they've kind of embedded themselves within wellness and spiritual communities, and yeah, advancing like a very specific political agenda. So I'd love to chat with you off of here.
Okay.
I see Amit say yes.
Yeah, I haven't had that experience. I don't tolerate trolls anyway, so I'm sorry.
I can give you names, John.
Okay. I think I think Tom does get hit. He gets hit.
Yeah. And there are
Yeah.
two particular creators who have come after me with this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, see? And so it would be good to have the tools to be able to work with that sort of interaction as well, right? Because that's that, in my mind, that's that passive aggressive bullshit. You know, you're hiding behind a computer screen, you know, with your verbal diarrhea and all of that.
Well,
you know.
didn't somebody comment on one of your videos, Tom? And then Havana was like, she came in and helped, like I guess you could say counterattack. You were Havana, you were like, how many times you gonna copy and paste a comment on all of our videos?
Yeah.
You know?
Because she copy and pasted the same comment on my video.
Yeah.
And it was
Yes.
to all of that
Yeah.
stuff that happened after the first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I think that was go ahead. Go ahead.
And that person is on Facebook too. She's in a Facebook group. She is, you know, and that's another thing too. People with these agendas, they have infiltrated different places as well. You know, that's part of it. But all you can do, you can't be afraid to put the stuff out. You can't be afraid. Everybody that I'm looking at, you have a role, you have a purpose. Bring it, right? I'm telling you, that's the shift that I'm feeling, the shift that's taking place. People are looking for, you know, a couple of years ago on YouTube, someone has started the hashtag about authenticity, right? And 2020, if nothing else, should have had you take a pause and really look at some things and say, okay, we got to get out of that moon stage. What is real? Right? Natalie's smiling. We got to get out of that freaking moon stage. You know, what is real? What really is real? And, you know, you have to look at yourself first. Look at that mirror first. Yeah. Bye, Renee. Oh, bye, James. Good to see you. Will you be back in 3 months? I guess, Renee, you'll have him back in 3 months. I enjoy his channel. So yeah, I'm talking now. I'm long-winded. Okay. But yes, let's get out of the moon phase. Let's get out of that moon stage and all of that. So January 3rd, Real Talk, Real Connections. This is a different thing. It's a different vibe. It's bringing yourself to the table and sharing it with the tuberverse. I'm going to be asking you questions. Yes. Renee, you have 2 decks? Yeah. Okay, I know these decks are they're a lot of fun to work with. A lot of
Healing
fun.
and on racism.
Yeah. And I have amusement, I have healing, I have strangers, and I have friends.
I think you almost have them all.
I do have them all because I fell in love with all of them, right? And unlike a tarot deck of 78 cards, each deck has 196 cards. So there'll never be a time that we will run out of things, you know? And if you go back to Renee's channel, you can see what we did on her channel a few weeks ago. What are you saying, Lennon, when we were asking those questions? Yeah.
What were you saying? What did you ask me?
What were you saying? I saw the lips.
No. I was laughing at what Emmett they put in the chat. Got to catch them all.
Oh, yeah.
Got to catch all the skin deep decks.
Exactly.
I asked you if you were going to pull them out today.
I do have them here. Okay, so let's see. Strangers, because I think one of the questions I had asked Renee was like, at what point do we become friends? Right? None of us know each other physically, but at what point do we become friends? You know? Oh, I have the family edition. So one of the questions in the family edition that you will sit down and ask your sibling is that if we weren't related, would we be friends? And I could tell you with my family, I would say no. I'm just saying that's just the way it is there. I have the friends edition, amusing, and the self, because, you know, self-care seems to be a big thing. So let's see if I can get a question for the strangers sitting here. Are we strangers? We'll see. This is half the deck, right? Who's leaving us now? Oh, bye, Kasha.
Yeah, see you next time. I don't want to disturb.
Okay.
It's nearly midnight here and I'm falling like.
Oh, yes, honey, go ahead. Go
Bye.
ahead. All right. What's an opinion you have that you rarely share?
I rarely don't share my opinions, so.
Really? That's a joke. Oh, wow. Huh? This has questions like, what's one piece of advice you have for me? Right? Oh, if we had to create something together, what do you think it would be? What's the most important thing you didn't do that you should have done? Right? Especially now with everything going on. What's the one thing you used to love to do as a kid, but you no longer do? That's the strangers deck, right? So you would ask. So here's the thing, you don't have to answer the questions, but you are asked to give yourself 10 seconds. Sure, we'll see you. You're joining us on the 3rd, are you not?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward
Okay.
to it. Yeah.
Are you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye. This is from the Friends deck. In 5 words, describe how you think others perceive you.
I think people perceive me as way happier than I actually am.
Yes, sunshine, they do. But you are. What do you think you were born to do, but you aren't doing?
These questions don't mess around.
No.
Like at all. Oh my God.
No, no, no. Nope.
Straight to the chase.
I have to start winding down myself.
Sure.
For the evening, but
What do you think?
I was going to say I'll volunteer to have the stream on my channel next time.
Okay, okay.
I just will need a tutorial as well.
Yeah.
That's the reason I never do lives on YouTube.
Oh, well, here's a question before you go. What are you going to take away from this conversation? That's for the next time. Yeah.
As a follow-up too, I think in terms of this idea of the sort of collective review conversations, I don't know if it's worth putting an email chain or a little Facebook group together so we can do a little planning around that, but I'm happy to do it. I just don't have everyone's email addresses. So I don't know, Queen Elsa, if you can send me
I'll send you the list. Yeah, I'll send you what I have.
Okay. And then if, we'll just put it out there for the other, we'll send a follow-up email maybe,
Yeah,
folks who had to leave, and then I can set that up on Facebook.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a
Bye,
safe,
Tom.
happy-
Thank you so much. Thank you
you.
so much. Yeah. So I'm in love with the Skin Deep because it's like, move over, Tarot, like move over. We're about to get real right now. Bring out the tequila. I mean, oh, so this is one. Describe a time where your failure resulted in the best thing that could have happened.
You know what I was thinking, Queen Elsa, that one you were talking about Move Over Tarot, that it would be really fascinating to pick that question that you just said, like, what is the worst thing that happened that turned out to be the best?
Yes.
Yeah, so like what tarot card would that remind you of? Like the Tower, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or the Eight of Cups.
Right.
Or like a combination of like the Five of Cups and then the Three of Cups or the Two of Cups.
Right.
Like these questions are so deep, but they can also translate to the tarot if you like really start to,
of course,
think into it. And I love that.
Yeah.
Do any of you follow the channel For Harriet?
Yes.
Called For Harriet. The other day I was going to talk about this before, but there was this amazing conversation that For Harriet, her name's Kimberly, had with this doctor named Dr. Joy Cox, and they were talking about this formula for representation that I thought was really interesting. And it's basically like there needs to be representation plus power behind that representation. So like, for example, when I was thinking about it myself, I was thinking about like how the conversation in tarot does go into talking about including trans people of color and specifically Black trans women in like that conversation, but how like in a lot of those decks, Black trans women are not actually having any power on these panels, and they're not actually like receiving any funds or money or backing behind it. So I thought that was so interesting about like the representation plus the power. And then they also talked about how representation means creating for people new visions for their own lives. So visions that they never thought of before because they had never seen it. And it like makes you, and so I thought a good question to add to the questions that you asked last time, Queen Osset, about like product development would be, who is seeing a new vision for their life through a deck and who is not? Like who is not able to create any new visions for their life through the representation that they see? So I just wanted to recommend that channel for Harriet. And there's some amazing conversations going on there about like representation on the whole. So definitely, yeah.
Okay, I'll put a link to that when I upload the video. Let me write that down.
She's amazing. And she needs more subscribers. Like she has like 170,000 subscribers, but she should have millions of subscribers in my opinion. She's incredible.
Okay. So I'll look for that. So do you have anything else for us, John? No? How did you feel about doing what you did?
Well, this was so much fun. I learned so much from everyone. Yeah, I watched many of your channels, and so yeah, quite the honor. Of course, I've done this before in an academic setting, but it's still very different to do that over live. So thank you.
Like this. No, thank you. You really, in September I came out guns blazing. I did. Well, because I had to, right? It was like things were hemorrhaging. You know what I mean? Someone had to stop the bleeding. Yeah. That's why I came out guns blazing. And I came up with the tools and things like, okay, I got to stop this bleeding here, right? Corral everything, herd the cats. Like, let's get all on the same page.
Yeah.
So, I'm really, really glad that we were able to come back together 3 months later. So 3 months down the line will be March, spring equinox time, right? It would be 90 days or so. What are you looking forward to that, Havana? Is that what you said?
I said it's going to be Corona's 1-year anniversary.
Oh, God.
Oh. Miss Rona is going to have a birthday celebration. We're going to have a birthday. We're going to have a farewell party for Miss Rona. Yes. Bye. Spring equinox, maybe, around that time.
I'm sorry. I was gonna check. I checked the calendar, and the 21st of March is on a Sunday. So.
Oh, well, there you go.
Just saying.
Yeah, Sunday works for you, Lennon. I really appreciate. So Lennon, you guys got to go over to her channel, okay?
Lord.
Go over to her channel. Okay. She what is that thing that she did? Mind spotting?
No. Are you talking about my spiritual questions?
Well, she had that too. She has a list of like these spiritual questions, and then I had the audacity, that's my word for the year, to go in and question her questions.
No. I did not. No, you. That's what I wanted. She went in the comments, y'all, and she was like, "Well, what's spiritual mean? What is this club you're talking about?" I was like, "Look, I'm only saying spiritual because of the article I was reading said spiritual. But guess what? This is not a club. If you are interested, now, like you told me in our private chat, spiritual could, to me, I always assumed spiritual meant someone having a practice or some sort of mindset surrounded on the macro and microcosm. But you were like, but isn't somebody just trying to feed their baby? It's got holding down 3 jobs. You know, that's spiritual too. And I think about that. And I think, you know, if I go back and watch my video as one of those mamas, that's a single mom that's trying to hold down multiple jobs, you know, maybe she doesn't have the time today to watch that and internalize what the questions that, you know, I was asking, but maybe she will in a couple of years, then my video will still be out there in the ether, waiting on her when some of her babies grow up, or maybe when she's able to breathe again in terms of, you know, holding down that one good job or something. My video will still be there in 5, 10 years, 15 years. You know, it's for whoever's in this club. Okay, I'm not going to call it that. You know, I don't care what you label yourself. Whenever you want to seek, that's for seekers. Whenever you want to ask yourself those questions, it'll be there.
Lennon, what's the name of your channel?
It's just my name, Lennon Smith.
Oh, Smith. Okay.
Smith. Yeah. I got Lennon. I got Lennon. Okay, and then I married a Smith.
Yeah. Lennon has some good content.
What video were you talking about though? Just a minute ago.
When you did a recap, you spent a whole year. It's the word mind is in there. You did
Mind Sight.
Yes.
Yes. When I started my channel, I had a plan. I started my channel. I was like, you know what? I got a voice on some things. And so I set a plan for once a month on the new moon to do. I came up with a word of the year. I made that shit up. Okay, mind sight ain't a word. And I thought about hindsight. I want to be able in December 2020 to look back on all the psycho-spiritual topics that I was exploring in those months.
Yeah.
And I did. Oh, see? Yeah, hindsight is 2020. And I changed it to mind sight because I wanted to change and evolve my mind. Not just look back on the events that I have actually seen, but what I'm experiencing, this stuff. Somebody else's experience that I'm hearing, I'm listening to, I'm internalizing, those types of things. Change, and, you know, pick a kind of a vague topic. I did pick vague topics. And then just once a month, I got on my channel, talked about them. And in December, I felt incredibly accomplished. I felt, I did this.
Bye, Renee. Yes, you did. You did.
So it was great. It was great.
All right. So for the audience that's still with us, because we're still recording when I upload this, we will be back again, town hall, summit reunion. So it's not going to be a summit reunion now. It's going to be, we got to come up with another name. I don't know. Or not. I don't know. Summit review or something. I don't know. March 21st, 2021. Right? All those threes.
That ought to give us enough time to get Hay House if we want them to come and participate.
Yeah.
Because I know you have plenty to say to Hay House. People, you know.
Hay House.
But just to think about that. We've only done one of these. This will be 2. How cool would it be to have someone from an actual publishing company here with us?
Yeah. Of course.
That's like, woo!
Yeah. You know,
one does it, others might be motivated.
Right.
Why can't we can get Hay House, Blue Angel, somebody from US Games, Llewellyn.
So as Kasha has said before she left, when we were live on the previous summit, Hay House, like someone was watching something on YouTube and contacted someone else within the Hay House UK, and said, hey, this thing is going on. We want to be part of it. And then they asked Phyllis Curott, who did the Witch's Wisdom deck, and she said she wanted to be part of the next discussion. So now this is being recorded. This is public information. So Phyllis, you got an invitation, right? And I work on making things official with Hay House, and let's bring Phyllis to the channel, Hay House to the channel. Maybe I can get someone from US Games, Llewellyn, you know. Havana, she's indie deck review. Maybe Havana could give us like a breakdown of how, I don't know, I mean, you guys aren't publishers, but you know, like you do, you know,
I was thinking about, because we have relationships, so I was thinking about some people that I might be able to reach out to.
Okay. Yeah.
With the publishing companies.
Yeah. So let's bring that. 2021. I mean, it's a 5-year. My card for the year is death. Let's rebuild. Let's have some new traditions, new conversations. I mean, we've got money I have money to spend, right? But I'm also going to become just more discerning about where I'm spending my money now, right? I want to be more wise in where I'm going to make my investments. You know, it's great being a deck collector, but I like to use my collection too, you know. And I have to tell you, a lot of the decks I just put away. You know, I know, Havana, you're looking at me. I know you've curated your collection. I'm working on that too. But like I said, I'm in retail, so I get the stuff coming to me like crack, you know, like, oh my God, a new deck is coming. Like, oh my God, all set. What did I get? A palmistry deck, and there's some, there's a magic, it's a black box magic deck, you know, like this stuff just comes in, you know.
And like what you also said about how animal decks can be a way to kind of overcome the critique.
Yes. Right. Now, here's another thing. I don't mind an animal deck, but you know, I'm African, right? There's some animals. We could talk about that too. Very few animal decks come out of another, you see what I'm saying? Come out of another country. This is where I have to give CBR a little bit of credit, because her animal spirit deck, she at least brought in some other animals, you know, from Australia. You know what I'm saying? Most animal decks, they're only focusing on this particular continent right here, or what they know out of Europe, but that's it. It's so narrow. See that? And then sometimes I do wonder, okay, are we just being overly critical? Are we just criticizing because we have so many options and so many choices now, so we're just going to go ahead and criticize? You don't think so?
I think everything should be criticized.
Well, you know, listen, you guys, back in the day, I told you, we only had like 3 decks on the shelf to choose from. You see? Now we have more options, more to choose from.
But it was the critique of that, right, that led to there being greater choice.
Yeah.
And with so much, you know, in a moment where there's so much to choose from, if people can't be willing to represent what's the point?
I know.
I mean, it's just not, no, I think it has to be critiqued maybe more now than ever, because yeah.
Okay.
I think so, because especially with the market being flooded the way that it is right now,
yeah,
and just saturated. If it's being saturated by the same stuff over and over and over again, I don't understand. Then we're just destroying the planet indiscriminately without any purpose.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
bye, Lennon. Thank you so much. Sure, Jen. I know you got to go. We'll see you. What, in 3 months? Will you be back? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Fabulous. Bye. All right, guys. I think we could wrap up now. Say goodbye to the YouTube audience. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Again, I apologize for the technical glitches, but you know.
It's going up there. That's all that matters.
Yes, it is. Right? Someone's going to be like, what is this all about? I did tell people get a snack, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
And a cup of tea.
Yes, get a snack, get a cup of tea. You know, we put out, look, this is some good stuff that we put out. I don't care what anybody says. Like, you know, we could do the 5 favorite decks for 2020. Okay, great. But this is real gristle right here. People like this. You know, like, oh my gosh, all these human beings coming together to have a conversation, like, damn.
Yeah.
Number one, right? And they're talking about making these changes in this community. Like, damn, they might actually do this. Right? I believe we actually might make some headway in 2021. Yeah.
We will.
I believe so.
I'm not muted.
You're not needed, Leonard.
I wasn't. I was like listening to like my kids behind the curtain. I'm like, oh. I was like, shit, I'm not muted.
Are they quiet?
Yeah, they're, I mean, when
okay.
Yeah. You got to put your mama boots on, right?
Right. Hey,
okay.
I know. I hear you.
Mama busy. No,
exactly. Exactly. But yeah. Oh, look at my nails.
They're gorgeous.
Look at that.
My goodness, amazing. It's my favorite color.
Look at that color, right? Is that? Yeah.
Fabulous purple.
In 2021, I think I'm just going to do videos where I'm just like shuffling the deck. No talking.
Some ASMR.
Serious ASMR.
I was thinking even with your earrings and your jewelry, like I'm loving all of the soothing sounds of that. Yes.
It's funny. It actually reminds me of my grandma because she used to wear a lot of heavy jewelry and
isn't that another line of work? I'm just saying. You know, I'm just saying. Yeah, but I was thinking about doing that, just shuffling the deck with my nails and making that noise. I don't know. I don't hear what you guys hear, but yeah. I'm tired now because I've been up for 24 hours. You know, so. Yeah. Why? Because, you know, on Sundays, I put on my whites, we sit in ceremony, just a lot of things that we have to do and such, you know, wear my leques. That's another thing I want to bring to the channel in 2021 is a little bit more in-depth information about my spirituality, right? My faith, you know. I told Ren, WREN, she has a channel, finally up and running. She was doing numerology, you know, the numerological aspects go through the tarot. And I was going to do a combination of the tarot and Yarisha, why certain numbers mean different things for me, right? Like number 5 is all about that disruption and that big change and that shift and everything. And number 5 for me is always about Oshun. That is her number. But I'm going to explain why the energy of the 5 for me is not disruptive and how to work with that, bringing that Oshun 5 energy. And I think when people hear that and learn about that, they won't be so overly concerned about the 5 of Swords or the 5 of Cups. You won't see it as loss and remorse or, you know, empty victory. You'll see something else coming out of it. So that's something that I'm working on. Yeah. So. Okay. Any questions for me before we go? No? All right, guys. So we'll chat again in 3 months. January 3rd. No, you guys aren't. So real talk, real connection. This is where we're going to be asking the deep dive questions and such like that. Let me know if you want to come on.
Will that be every Sunday, Queen Elsa?
No, I don't know if we can handle every Sunday, Emmett. Like, oh.
You
Yeah,
heard
that would
them
be a lot.
questions?
Maybe like every once a month or
Maybe,
until-
yeah, maybe once a month or every other Sunday at the most, you know. People really did like listening to the conversation, like Havana, Kim, like,
did.
you know, we were talking real.
It was amazing.
And you were sharing too, like sharing
yes.
vulnerable parts of yourself too. And I think that having that kind of a round table kind of a feel helped to open up a little bit better too. It felt like it did for you guys. I don't know how
it was cathartic actually.
Right, see, it
Awesome.
was, you know, and we did it. So it'd be kind of nice. We have, I know next month we're going to have January 3rd. I'll put that up there. We're going to have Will. I think Julie from Peekaboo Rose. Renee reached out to people. So it's actually going to be a bigger round table. I think it might be actually 6. So it's going to be interesting. And I'll just pull the cards from different decks and just see. If you guys have not gone over to the Skin Deep, you gotta watch some of those. You gotta watch some of those videos. I mean, I sit there and I cry when I'm listening to them. Like,
there was one about a couple, and it was like the most honest couple in the world, and they were being honest with each other. I was like, oh my goodness.
Right.
And I kept thinking, I was like, man, I need to do this with my partner.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's scary to ask those questions too. Can be.
But it shouldn't be.
No. I mean, I've known my partner since I was 13. I better know what he's gonna say. Okay.
I know, but sometimes people will surprise you.
I know.
And that's the beauty of it.
And they surprised each other in the video.
Yeah.
And then I watched one of sisters, and one was Down syndrome. And I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Yeah. Their channel, their YouTube channel is
that's a fantastic project.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like if people have more conversations like that, the world won't be going through the crap that it's going through right now.
Well, I think it'll break up the fear of talking.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah. I think that's exactly what it will do. So, you know, it'll start in that little piece of the world right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then hopefully that will spread like the virus. I'm going to introduce a new virus. Let's do that. No mask required. Okay. You're actually going to be encouraged to take off your mask. See?
Ooh, now the concept is really building.
Yes, you see that? Yeah.
You know, I was just reading a poem by Paul Dunbar. And it was called We Wear the Mask. That's just so weird that you just said that, because I was just looking at it on my Google.
Synchronicity.
I know.
Right? Exactly. So, you know, that's like confirmation from the universe, like, okay, I'm on the right path. I'm on the right track for this, right?
Yeah.
This is just something that I feel passionate about. Again, I have no hidden agenda, no end goal in sight. It's just something new that I want to just bring to the community. That's what I do. I don't have any like end goal. Okay, I'm going to do this, and this, and this, and I'll get to that. No, it's like, no, we need something new. I want some different spice, you know.
The goalpost keeps moving further and further, right?
It does. You know, yeah. Let's do something different here. Let's clean up the crap and dig deeper and become a little bit more true to who we are supposed to be, right?
Well, because look, if you think about the tower, what'd you say, burn it down earlier? If we think about that structure and it's on the ground and we are all sitting there with no shelter, we're sitting there in the rain. We just have each other.
Exactly.
To keep each other warm. How are we going to do that?
Yeah.
We're gonna sit on the grass, cross-legged, and we're going to chat.
Right.
That's what we would do.
That's what we're going to do. Get close, get that body heat going. Right? Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. That's, as they say, 2021 is going to be, it's going to be real. Really, really real, you know. So, all right, guys. saying goodnight for the last time.
Bye,
Talk to you
everyone.
later. Bye.
Bye.
Be safe. Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Stop recording.